Alright folks, how you doing? So in this video I'm going to be talking about medieval Christianity during the time of the First Scottish War of Independence, how it's very different, from what we think of as modern Christianity, because back in the day, you know, abbots, monks, priests, even bishops weren't afraid to throw down, man. They would get involved, they get stuck in the fighting along with everyone else. In fact, one of the principal leaders of the English occupation of Scotland was Bishop Anthony Beck. He was basically the right hand man of King Edward I in the north of England and in Scotland. The whole Battle of the Bray, the battle in the Glasgow High Street, was about trying to capture him. And he came very close to being captured. He had to flee, but before he did, he would go up against the Scots in person and fight them. And he cut down a number of Scots. In fact, Bishop Beck defeated William Wallace in battle at least twice. At least. That's something King Edward I was never able to do, but Bishop Anthony Beck did. I'm telling you. In fact, Bishop Beck was the one who led the English right at the Battle of Falkirk in 1298. He was in charge of the right flank. You can look into the biography also of Bishop Wishart. I'll do a whole video just on him. He was another Scot of Norman extraction who was instrumental in, the Scottish side in the Wars of Independence. Another Norman who fought for the Scots. This list is increasing all the time. Wanna fucking tell me that the Normans were the bad guys and all this, and how they oppressed the Scots? What the hell are you talking about? They led the Scots. They didn't oppress them. They were the ones like Wishart, like John the Graham, who were leading the Scots in the fight against England. You know, um, you know, do your research. Into all this stuff. I'm telling you, it comes up again and again. The bishops' uprising. Look into that. I'll do videos about that in the future. You know, um, but incidents like the battle of not the battle, even the massacre, the slaughter of the English at the Barns of Ayr, where Wallace locked in 5,000 English soldiers and burned the barns down, just burned them down, just locked them in and burned down the barns, as an act of revenge. I'll get into that chapter, but there was a priory close by, and the English soldiers had rudely barged into the priory, and when the priors who were there saw what was happening over in Ayr, that the barns were being burned down, and they could hear the English screaming, "Ah!" Because they're burning, to death. What the priors did? They got their knives out, and there was, a lot of English soldiers. They just walked in, just like, "Oh, mate, we need a room for the night," but hang on, you're not welcome here. "I don't give a fuck, mate. Go get my fucking room ready. Go get us some wine." "Oh, you want some wine? Oh, okay. Here's some wine. Yeah, sure, no problem. Here's some wine for you. Yeah, have all the wine." I'll help them pass out. And when they're sleeping, what they did? They walked into their rooms and cut their fucking throats. It's called the Friar's Blessing of Ayr. This is a famous incident. And the English, who were so big and bad, when they realised what was happening, they were running out the door naked. They were jumping into the river. Some of them drowned even, because the priors were coming after them with knives. And these are, soldiers who are like, "Fucking hell, these guys have gone fucking mental," and they're running out the fucking window. It's almost comical if if you weren't talking about people being killed here. But believe me, the abbots, the friars, the priors, the monks, the bishops, they got stuck in on both sides. You had Bishop Beck on the English side, you had Bishop Wishart on the Scottish side. They were not afraid to throw down. They'd throw in a suit of chainmail, pick up a sword, and swing, just like everyone else, because these were very violent times. Very violent. And Wallace himself was a devout Catholic. I myself am Presbyterian, but my best friend's Catholic. I don't have any prejudice against any religion or sect or whatever. You know, um, but Wallace, this author here, the ones who are talking about Henry the Minstrel, in the book Robin Hood Revealed, they even go so far as to make the case that Wallace has a legitimate case for being canonized as a saint in the Catholic Church. Wallace, he did have visions of the Virgin Mary at one time. He even had a vision of St. Andrew at one time when he visited a holy place. He had these visions like he was destined to expel the English 3 times, and did. There was a whole prophecy surrounding William Wallace that he would lead Scotland to victory 3 times and cast the English out thrice, which happened. This prophecy was fulfilled. This came true. You know, what was his name again? Thomas the Rhymer, I believe, was his name. This local prophet visited Wallace when he had been cast out of the castle at Ayr, because he was starving to death, and the English were about to execute him after they captured him. And he had a wound that was festering that had turned gangrenous. He had a fever. He was starving to death, malnourished, and they thought he was dead. He possibly was, actually, now that you think about it. And they cast out his body, and Wallace's nurse from his childhood rescued his body from the English and nursed him back to health and brought him back from death. Possibly he did die and was resurrected. You read about these things in the Bible, people coming back from death. It can happen. There have been people who have died, who have come back. It doesn't happen very often. Mostly when you're dead, you're dead. But, there have been such things as near-death experiences, people who've gone out of their own bodies and come back. And there is the case to be made that Wallace was resurrected. And you can fall down on either side of that. Either, he recovered naturally, or he was divinely ordained to lead the Scots to victory. But, Henry the Minstrel very much makes the case that it was the latter. That God was sending him visions and the Blessed Virgin was on his side. Of course, Catholicism and Christianity were very strong back then. So it is possible that this is somewhat exaggerated or just kind of put in there to big up Wallace, to make him seem saintly in the eyes of the Scots. But if you're making that argument, then why does Henry the Minstrel do absolutely nothing to disguise the fact that Wallace made some horrendous mistakes? This is why I truly believe that Henry the Minstrel's account is absolutely authentic and based on the Latin manuscript of John Blair, who was the personal chaplain of Wallace, who, by the way, fought in battles himself, side by side with Wallace, even though he was a chaplain, even though he was a holy man. The account of Henry the Minstrel was written in 1361. It was based upon the translation from the Latin, account of John Blair, who was side by side with Wallace throughout his whole life. So, there you go. But anyway, thanks for watching.